Hey there, fellow knowledge seekers. Before we get started today, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future deep dives. Now get ready because today we're traveling back in time to a period that completely reshaped how we understand the universe and set the stage for modern science, the scientific revolution.
Yeah, it's really amazing when you stop and think about it. For centuries, humans depended on a mix of common sense and traditional beliefs, often coming from religious dogma, to explain the natural world.
Right.
And then suddenly, boom, the scientific revolution happens and everything changes.
It's like all of humanity suddenly woke up and decided to look at the world in a totally new way. And we've got a bunch of sources here, encyclopedia entries, historical overviews, all ready to unpack exactly how this huge shift happened. So where do we even begin?
Well, I think first we have to figure out when and where this revolution actually took place. We're mostly talking about the 16th and 17th centuries, a time of incredible intellectual energy and excitement in Europe. Just imagine for almost 2,000 years, people thought the Earth was the center of the universe.
Wow, 2,000 years is a long time to believe in something. So what finally happened to change people's minds?
It was a bunch of things coming together, really.
Right.
But maybe the most important was a whole new way of thinking emerging, one that emphasized observation, experimentation, and this relentless pursuit of the truth. And this, really challenged the authority of those ancient Greek thinkers like Aristotle and Ptolemy, whose ideas had basically ruled scientific thought for centuries.
Okay, so we have this new way of thinking coming up, but what did it actually look like in practice? I mean, how was it different from the old way?
One of the big differences was a shift from a qualitative to a quantitative understanding of nature. See, before the scientific revolution, people described the world in terms of qualities, things like hot, cold, wet, dry.
Okay.
But during this time, there was a growing focus on measurement and numbers.
This lets scientists make much more precise observations and even develop mathematical models to explain what they were seeing in nature.
Oh, so instead of just saying, like, it's a hot day, they could actually say, it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
Exactly, and think about the impact this had on fields like astronomy.
Right.
For centuries, astronomers had only their eyes and complex geometric models to try to explain how things moved in the sky. But then, the invention of the telescope, along with this focus on precise measurement, totally revolutionized how we understood the cosmos.
And that brings us to, I guess, a very important figure in all this, Nicholas Copernicus, right?
Absolutely. In 1543, Copernicus published his groundbreaking heliocentric theory. It put the sun, not the Earth, at the center of the solar system.
Right.
This was a huge change from the accepted geocentric view, the Ptolemaic system, which had the Earth at the center. Copernicus's theory caused tons of debate and controversy, but it also planted the seeds for complete reimagining of where we fit in the universe. It must have been incredibly controversial back then. I mean, why was it so hard for people to accept this new idea?
Well, just imagine your whole understanding of the world being flipped upside down. For centuries, people believed the Earth was the center of everything, and now someone was telling them it actually revolved around the sun. It challenged their religious beliefs, their philosophical ideas, even their basic common sense.
Wow, so it wasn't just a scientific debate then. It sounds more like a cultural earthquake. So what happened next? How did this new idea actually start to gain traction?
Well, Copernicus's theory wasn't accepted right away. It needed more evidence to back it up.
Right.
And that's where another amazing figure comes in, Tycho Brahe.
Okay.
Brahe was a meticulous observer of the stars and planets. He spent years carefully recording their positions with incredible accuracy.
So basically his data turned out to be super important for scientists who came after him, right?
Exactly. Brahe's incredibly detailed observations gave Johannes Kepler the information he needed to formulate his 3 laws of planetary motion. Now, these laws not only supported the heliocentric model, but they also introduced this brand new concept of elliptical orbits.
Okay.
Before Kepler, everyone assumed planets moved in perfect circles. But his work completely shattered that assumption and provided a more accurate picture of how planets actually move.
So we're starting to see the pieces of the puzzle coming together. But I have a feeling that things really took off with Isaac Newton.
You're absolutely right. Newton was a giant of the scientific revolution. His work in the late 17th century truly unified physics. See, before Newton, people saw the movements of the stars and planets as completely separate from how things moved here on Earth, like they followed different rules. But Newton showed that the same laws of motion and gravity applied to everything, both in the heavens and here on Earth.
It's like his famous laws of motion things, like an object at rest staying at rest unless something acts on it. We still learn about those in school today. They sound so simple,
Yeah.
but they totally changed how we understand the universe works.
Exactly. Newton's 3 laws of motion gave us a framework for understanding how objects move and interact with each other. And his law of universal gravitation explained why planets orbit the sun and why, well, apples fall from trees. It was a truly groundbreaking achievement, showing that the universe operates according to predictable mathematical principles.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it wasn't just physics. Newton's work in optics had a huge impact too. He showed that white light is actually a mix of all these different colors. And he even invented the reflecting telescope, which gave us even clearer and more powerful views of space.
So Newton's work really showed this shift towards seeing the universe as more like a machine, right? Like he was saying, the universe isn't some mysterious thing we can't understand. It's more like a giant clock we can figure out by observing it and experimenting.
Exactly. And that mechanistic view, along with the development of powerful new tools like the telescope and the microscope, really changed other fields of science too.
Right.
For instance, in anatomy, scientists could now study the human body in amazing detail.
Oh, yeah. This reminds me of Leonardo da Vinci, that genius from the Renaissance, who was a scientist and engineer just as much as he was an artist. His anatomical drawings were so detailed and accurate, showing the muscles, bones, and organs with incredible clarity.
Da Vinci is a perfect example of how art and science were so connected during this time.
Yeah.
The Renaissance really encouraged a sense of curiosity and observation that influenced both art and science. Artists were really good at observing the natural world, and because they wanted to make things look real, they had to really study the structures and principles of what they were seeing.
So it wasn't just about making pretty pictures. Those anatomical sketches actually had a scientific purpose behind them. They were adding to our understanding of the human body.
Exactly. And this close link between art and science also led to the development of scientific illustration.
Right.
Detailed drawings and diagrams became crucial for communicating and documenting all these new scientific findings. Think about those super detailed botanical illustrations that allowed naturalists to classify and study plants.
Okay.
Or the intricate anatomical drawings that helped surgeons understand how the human body worked.
It's really fascinating how art itself became a tool for advancing science. That's like those illustrations were a bridge between just seeing something and actually understanding it.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about how all this new knowledge during the scientific revolution was shared and spread.
Okay.
We've talked about the challenges they faced without the internet or social media.
Right. I mean, it's hard to imagine making some groundbreaking discovery and not being able to tweet about it or post it on Instagram right away.
Right. So how did scientists back then actually communicate their findings?
Yeah, how did they do it?
Well, they had to be much more careful and strategic about it. One important development was the rise of scientific societies. These organizations, like the Royal Society of London, which started in 1660, and the Académie des Sciences in Paris, founded in 1666, gave scientists a place to share their research, debate ideas, and confirm each other's discoveries.
So it's like these societies acted as hubs for scientific exchange.
Yeah.
They helped researchers connect, work together, and make sure new knowledge was carefully examined.
Exactly. They played a really important role in standardizing how science was done, putting emphasis on open communication, peer review, and making sure results could be reproduced. This was a huge change from the secrecy that often surrounded scientific knowledge in the past.
Right.
Instead of keeping their discoveries hidden, scientists were now encouraged to share them, allowing for more scrutiny and discussion.
And I bet this open sharing of knowledge was also helped by the printing press, which was becoming more and more common around this time, right?
Absolutely. The printing press completely revolutionized how information spread. Scientific books and journals, even popular science books, could now be printed and shared far and wide, reaching a much larger audience. Can you imagine the impact of being able to share detailed anatomical diagrams with doctors all over Europe, or publishing Copernicus's controversial heliocentric theory for the whole world to see?
It's amazing to think how those advancements in technology actually helped democratize knowledge and speed up the pace of scientific discovery. So looking back on all this, what would you say are some of the most important results of the scientific revolution? Why should we still care about it today?
Well, one thing is that it really laid the foundation for all of modern science.
Hmm.
It established the principles of observation, experimentation, and basing conclusions on evidence, which are still core to how we do science today.
Yeah.
The scientific method, with its focus on testing hypotheses and analyzing data rigorously, really took shape during this period.
Okay.
It provided a powerful tool for understanding the natural world, and it continues to shape how we approach knowledge.
So it's not just about remembering a bunch of historical facts and figures. The scientific revolution actually changed the way we think, the way we ask questions, and the way we look for answers.
Exactly. It's about understanding the process of scientific discovery and recognizing how important critical thinking, skepticism, and evidence-based reasoning are.
Right.
These are all values that are just as important today as they were hundreds of years ago.
And it's not just about science itself, right? The scientific revolution had a huge impact on society as a whole.
You're absolutely right. It challenged the traditional hierarchies of power and fostered a belief in the power of human reason to understand and improve the world. This actually paved the way for the Enlightenment, a period of intellectual and philosophical growth that really emphasized individual liberty, reason, and progress.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
One revolutionary idea leads to another, and pretty soon you have a whole society questioning their long-held beliefs and demanding a more rational and just world.
Exactly. The scientific revolution wasn't just about telescopes and microscopes. It was about a fundamental change in how humans saw themselves and their place in the universe. It was about empowering individuals to question authority, to embrace their curiosity, and to seek knowledge through observation and reason.
Right.
And that's a legacy that continues to inspire us today.
It's incredible to think about how much our understanding of the world has changed in such a relatively short amount of time. But we should also remember that scientific progress isn't always easy or straightforward, right? There were definitely challenges and setbacks along the way.
Absolutely. The scientific revolution was full of intense debates, controversies, and even persecution. Some scientists faced resistance from religious leaders who saw their ideas as a threat to established doctrines.
Right.
Others had to deal with limited resources, technology that wasn't quite there yet, and the skepticism of their colleagues.
It's important to remember that these scientific pioneers weren't just working in fancy labs with unlimited money.
They were pushing the limits of knowledge in a world that was often resistant to change.
Exactly. Think about Galileo, for example. His observations using the telescope supported the idea of a sun-centered universe, but his work also put him at odds with the Catholic Church.
Right.
He was actually put under house arrest because of his views.
It's a reminder that scientific progress often comes at a price. These early scientists were incredibly brave and determined to find the truth, even when people opposed them.
Absolutely. Their courage and dedication made the scientific advancements we have today possible.
It's a powerful reminder that the pursuit of knowledge doesn't just require intellectual curiosity.
Right.
It also needs a willingness to challenge the status quo and stand up for what you believe in. And speaking of challenging the status quo, the scientific revolution wasn't just a one-time event, was it? I mean, those kinds of scientific revolutions, as we might call them, are still happening today.
Absolutely. Just look at fields like quantum physics, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering.
They're all pushing the limits of knowledge and challenging those assumptions we've held for so long. In a way, the spirit of the scientific revolution is still very much alive in these cutting-edge fields.
It makes you wonder what other scientific revolutions are happening right now in labs and research centers all over the world. What long-held assumptions are being questioned and overturned as we speak.
That's the amazing thing about science, isn't it? It's a journey of discovery that never ends.
Right.
There's always more to learn, more to explore, more to understand.
It's truly exciting to think about what the future holds for scientific discovery. And on that note, I'm really eager to hear more about the lasting impact of the scientific revolution.
It's really amazing to think how much the scientific revolution didn't just change what we knew about the world. It changed, like, the very structure of modern society.
It's true, and we have to acknowledge that, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's not an overstatement to say that the scientific revolution caused this huge shift in focus in European civilization from Christianity to science.
So it wasn't just about changing scientific theories then, but actually changing the way people thought about what was true and who had the authority to say what was true.
Exactly. You see, before the scientific revolution, people relied mostly on religious dogma and ancient texts to understand the world. But then scientists started making all these groundbreaking discoveries based on what they could observe and test it, challenge the authority of those traditional sources of knowledge.
It's like this power shift happened, with science becoming the new authority.
Exactly, and this shift had huge, far-reaching consequences.
Hmm.
We saw advancements in medicine, technology, agriculture, and even the way political and economic systems were organized. It even played a big part in the rise of secularism and the Enlightenment.
Wow, it's incredible to think about how these scientific discoveries spread out and literally changed so many parts of life.
It really shows the power of ideas to change the world.
You're right, it really does. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about how our view of the universe changed, the rise of scientific societies, those big names like Copernicus, Kepler, and Newton, and the huge impact the scientific revolution had on society as a whole. It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. And I hope everyone listening has come away with a better understanding of this crucial moment in human history.
I think they have. But before we finish up, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about the scientific revolution being this ongoing thing. What would you say are some of the most important lessons we can learn from this period that are still relevant today?
Well, one really important takeaway is that we need to be curious and willing to question things. The scientists of the scientific revolution didn't just accept what they were told. They dared to challenge those beliefs that had been around forever, to look at the world with new eyes, and to come up with new explanations for what they saw.
So it's not just about memorizing facts. It's about developing this mindset of asking questions and being a little skeptical.
Exactly. Another important lesson is that collaboration and openly sharing ideas is powerful. The scientific societies that popped up during this period played a huge role in encouraging communication, debate, and validating scientific discoveries.
Right.
And today, with the internet and all these global networks, being able to collaborate and access information openly is more important than ever.
It's like the whole scientific community is constantly building on the work of those who came before, sharing their knowledge and pushing the boundaries of what we understand.
Exactly. And finally, I think the scientific revolution teaches us that knowledge isn't something you just arrive at, it's a journey. There will always be more to discover, more to understand, and more questions to ask. That spirit of scientific inquiry should never fade away.
I love that. It's a real call to action for all the curious minds out there. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the scientific revolution, what's one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I'd encourage everyone to take that spirit of the scientific revolution and apply it to their own lives. Cultivate that curiosity, question your assumptions, search for new knowledge, and never stop exploring the wonders of the universe around us.
That's beautifully said. And on that note, a huge thank you to our expert for taking us on this incredible journey of discovery. And to all our amazing listeners, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the scientific revolution.
It was my pleasure.
And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future deep dives. We've got some seriously fascinating topics coming up. Until next time, keep your minds curious and never stop exploring.